Yo, what's going on YouTube? This your boy Kamen Rider Zero Spike back again once again. And today, people, today we're here for Kamen Rider Geats episode 14. In this episode, there's a lot going on. We lost a very prominent character in this episode. We get the reveal and the debut of a brand new Kamen Rider, and also we found out two other people who used to be riders but don't have their memories anymore. Well, they got them back now, and Yamato riders are talking. Well, like actually able to retain the memories of, actually able to retain the memories of the people that they were made from. Yeah, we getting there. So this episode basically starts off with it has actually having a part 2 to the new game that they have. Turns out this game that we're doing now is they have to find basically kind of like a hide and seek game. We're basically finding this this Yamato, this really big Yamato that they have to end up destroying. So we see that we see that Ace and Win do not have drivers anymore, so they kind of give up on, Win kind of gives up on, winning the actual game. So we see that Ace kind of basically has a conversation with him, telling him that, well, since we're both gonna lose anyway, can you kind of tell me like who the game master is? Like, tell me who the game master is, and tell me, a bunch of, like, basically why they trying to get rid of me, who the game master is, and basically what's their overall like plan or whatever. So Win is like, nah, bro. He said, nah, bro, we good. And then also we find out that Win didn't have a wish. He didn't have a desire that he put on the card. His only mission was to eliminate Geats. It was just to eliminate Ace. So he really did not have any type of, like, he didn't have no incentive to really win the game, even after Gitori, aka the game master, told him that, yeah, dude, like, you're if you end up defeating Geats, then you'll get kicked out of the game essentially, but I'll let you keep your memory. So that's basically Win's motive. He's just like, all I gotta do is beat you, and I don't have to do anything, so hey, I may lose, but I still complete my mission basically. But we see that Gitori does end up betraying him anyway, and that's when Win does get some kind of second wind. He gets like some kind of motivation to actually win this game. Now we also saw some backstory on him. Actually, after the game master basically essentially betrays him, he goes back to Sumori, and he says that, hey, I need a driver, let me in the game and stuff like that so he can win. We also saw that our other three, Neon, Buffa, and Quinoa, they're basically just focusing on the regular game, and they basically have no idea what's going on in the background. But we did see that Neon is trying to figure out why she's even in the game again, and what does her dad have to do with the game essentially. So she ends up asks her two bodyguards to look into what's going on, and essentially she finds out that her two bodyguards found ID cores, and she said, how do you know what ID cores are? And it turns out and it was John and Ben. Completely super American names, so they're easy to remember. John and Ben actually used to be Kamen Riders inside of the DGP, and turns out they were a White Tiger and a Black Panther. And I thought we were gonna be able to see what their rider forms look like, but no, we didn't get to see what their rider forms look like. But I was hoping to be able to actually see that. Most likely one day we'll most likely see what their rider forms look like, and hopefully maybe they'll actually get back into the game. I don't know, but we see that her dad is actually a sponsor of the DGP. He's part of the Karama Foundation, and we found out that the DGP has multiple sponsors and also people who like kind of fund the whole thing. So her dad is part of the Karama Foundation, and he's most likely the reason why she even got put back into the game. So we also found out more information about Win, and also more, and Win and Ace also tells him more about his past as well, saying that he's talking about how he's looking for his mom, and he asks him, why did the card reject me from saying that I want to see my mother. So we found out that his mother's name is Mizume, was something like that, Mizume, something like that. And it turns out that Win actually knows that name. Turns out she used to be the navigator before Subari. She was the navigator before Sumidi, but he doesn't remember how many seasons that was before. He doesn't remember. He doesn't know how far back ago that was. So, but all he knows that she used to be the navigator before Sumidi. But yeah, that's probably one of the reasons why she is probably why Ace cannot see her, because she's been like rejected or whatever. So we did see like a lot of fighting, but it just basically just our other three. They're basically fighting off all of these Jamato and two Jamato riders, and we see that Quinoa is using the new form, the jet form. He's using that, and he's kind of having a hard time with it to a degree, like the sword play, things like that. I kind of understand why he would have problems with a sword, because he's usually used to using like the bow and arrow. So he's doing okay, but he's having sort of a hard time with it. But he is taking out multiple Jamato. We see that Buffa is really trying to win this game now, since Geats does not have a driver anymore. And these three, they're still fighting these Jamato, when the girl in the red hat actually appears, and turns out she is the big head honcho Jamato, which is this big orange and looking Jamato, which it has, I'm guessing it has like some kind of mushroom type powers, because it was able to shoot off these spores. When it shoots off these spores, they infect you, and they make you think that there's more than one Jamato. Basically makes you see these illusions. And when he uses it, when he gets infected by it, he ends up attacking the Jamato. But turns out he ends up attacking Quinoa and Neon. So they're still trying to figure out how to basically find a way to actually beat this thing, because it keeps like leaving. So when we end up seeing that the game master does end up betraying Win, does end up betraying him, because he could not take out Geats. So he basically tells him that, hey, if you want to keep all your memories intact, and if you want to win this, if you want to keep all your memories intact, I need you to win this entire game. I want you to win the whole freaking game. And that's when he basically ends up betraying Win, and then Win is pissed off about it. So we see that's when Win tries his best to end up getting another driver. We did see that while Tycoon Kiwa is fighting one of the Jamato riders, we see that one of the Jamato riders starts to talk. Like, it starts to talk regularly, and it says something like, I have to win no matter what, which basically saying that these Jamato, as they grow up, whenever they're given a ID core, they might retain some of the memories of the original holder, which why they're actually probably starting to learn how to adapt, and they're actually getting stronger and learning how to adapt, and also learning how to use drivers, and also now they're actually freaking talking. So the Jamato basically essentially getting worse. We see the gardener dude who basically makes all the Jamato. We see that he's growing a new, bigger, more powerful Jamato that can full on talk, and he ends up naming this Jamato Rook, and he names it Rook, and that's basically the end of it. We'll see him for the rest of the episode, but we know that they are foreshadowing to now a pretty powerful Jamato has a name, full on name now, and probably will be like a reoccurring character most likely. But yeah, so we see that now Girori is pissed off that Win is basically betraying him. When he calls up Win, and Win says that, hey, he said, I'm not going to be your errand boy anymore. I'm going to win this game. Me and Ace are going to win this game together. So yeah, so they basically run off to go basically find some drivers that it can actually get before the end of the game. We see that they get intercepted by Girori, And that's when Ace basically says it outright that like, oh, so you're the game master, or should I say Gidori? So he knew who Gidori was the entire time. Most likely, he probably knew, but like the entire time of who the game master actually was. And we get the debut of Kamen Rider Glare. We see that he ends up hitching. We see Gidori ends up hitching up into Kamen Rider Glare. This form looks this whole rider suit looks pretty freaking cool. I understand why it's called Glare, because there's a lot of eyes on it. And it makes sense because he's always, and it makes sense this rider form does fit him very well, because he's the game master. He sees all and hears all. So it makes sense of that. It would make sense that his rider form would have multiple like eyeballs on it. But they all look cool though. It's not like a disgusting looking eyeball thing. But he looks very, very cool. He kind of reminds me of a 01 rider. I don't know why, but the way his henshin sequence is, he uses a completely different driver called the Vision driver, where he literally has to put his he has to put his thumbprint, his fingerprint into the excuse me, has to put his thumbprint, his fingerprint into the driver for it to work. And he also has like a little card that he slides through it to henshin with. But yeah, this form looks really freaking cool, and the abilities it has, it's very, very robotic and very futuristic looking, very robotic, whole different voice than the like the regular DGP drivers have. Most likely he has to be the only one that has this freaking driver. I don't think anybody has the freaking Vision driver. It looks pretty freaking cool, and so he ends up using that. He ends up transforming into his rider form. We see that when did end up getting a driver, and he transforms into Punch Jack Monster, and he gets utterly decimated by, of course he does, but gets utterly decimated by Glare. Then Glare ends up using an ability where he ends up hacking Punch Jack. He ends up hacking him and putting basically some of his armor comes off, and it latches onto Wind. And as he puts on his helmet, basically puts a helmet onto him, and he starts attacking Geats. We see that Geats while he's attacking Geats, we see that the rest of the crew is all still fighting the boss Jamato. When they end up fighting the boss Jamato, they end up Tycoon, or KY, ends up using the full jet mode. Using the full jet mode, just like how Geats ends up using that and ends up destroying the Jamato. We see that now that the game is actually over, Geats ends up getting retired, and we have lost the main character. But it seems like we're getting him right back in the next episode. I was thinking that maybe we will probably, have a few episodes without Geats, because Neon did ask the question about if Geats is gone, like, can we protect the world? And she starts recollecting like other things that have happened, like some of the really big Jamato and stuff like that. Some of the really big Jamato and stuff like that, like some of the big guys that they could not defeat before, and they wouldn't have been able to defeat if it wasn't for Ace. So she's fearful on what would happen if Ace was not here, essentially. But other than that, after Ace has been basically retired and Punch Jack is now being controlled, it's a lot going on, and also the same thing with the DGP having sponsors. Most likely that guy that we saw in the last episode who gave Ace the jet, gave Ace the jet item, most likely it probably is also a sponsor. These guys are these big corporations, these big companies, most likely is also one of the sponsors. But other than that, we also find out why Geats wishes for so much, basically wishes to be super famous, and he wishes to be a star and stuff like that. So just so he can get his mother's attention somehow, maybe if he gets so freaking famous that his mom will like contact him or visit him or something like that. Well, that didn't happen, and that's why Geats will always wish for those types of things. But other than that, the episode basically ends off with Geats getting retired. But with that being said, everybody, you guys let me know down there in the comment section below what you guys think of Kamen Rider Geats episode 14. What you guys think about Kamen Rider Glare? I do like this form, man, and I love the henshin sequence and all the whole, like, just his whole henshin sequence is dope. But I'm gonna get out of here. You guys let me know. I'll see you guys next time. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and remember, stay henshined.